While exploring my company's old storage room, I came across something that immediately caught my attention. I brought it back to my office. Everyone else seemed completely focused on their work. Years of dust and dirt had to go before its transformation could begin. I carefully scrubbed every inch, inside and out, making sure not a single corner was left untouched. Perfect. Now it's completely clean and ready for the next step. As I was about to head back, something caught my eye near the company entrance. A few old honeycomb briquettes. Most people would probably see them as waste. I saw potential. They had already been used and had been sitting there for a long time, so I decided to bring them back with me. Mission accomplished. Now, it was time to head back and start building. Before they could become part of this project, the old honeycomb briquettes needed a fresh start, so I carefully washed away the dirt and moss, revealing the texture hidden underneath. Once they were completely cleaned, it was time for the professional tool. I started breaking the old honeycomb briquettes into smaller pieces. I wasn't done yet. I kept crushing them into even finer pieces. Little by little, I filled the aquarium with the crushed material. Perfect. Now it completely covers the bottom of the aquarium. These crushed honeycomb briquettes will help create a porous base layer, giving beneficial bacteria more space to grow, while improving water circulation through the substrate. That makes it a great foundation for a healthy, balanced ecosystem. I carefully placed a ring of small stones on the substrate, giving the layout a simple but eye-catching centerpiece. Perfect. The centerpiece had finally taken shape. Next came a layer of smaller gravel around the circle. Besides improving the overall look, it also helped hold the substrate in place and created tiny spaces where beneficial bacteria could thrive. With the outer layer finished, I dug a small hole in the middle of the circle for the next step. Then I filled the hole with nutrient-rich substrate before covering the entire center of the circle. Digging the hole allowed me to concentrate more nutrients exactly where the roots would grow, giving the plant a stronger start and plenty of room to establish itself. After that, I leveled everything out with a rake. This nutrient-rich layer would become the foundation for healthy plants and a balanced ecosystem. Next, I planted several clumps of Vallisneria into the nutrient-rich substrate. Its deep root system would anchor the plant firmly while absorbing nutrients from the substrate, creating a lush green background as it continued to grow. Next came one of my favorite parts, adding the water. To avoid disturbing the layout, I placed a plastic sheet over the substrate so the water could flow in gently. After a little patience, the aquarium was finally full. This tiny world was one step closer to coming alive. I used a small plastic container to gently remove the floating debris, leaving the water much cleaner. I found a piece of foam and immediately had an idea. Using a marker, I traced a circle around a pot lid. Yup, you heard that right. A pot lid. To complete the shape, I traced a smaller circle inside the first one using a simple bowl. Slowly and carefully, I cut along the outline. One precise cut at a time, the shape I had imagined began to appear. Perfect. A flawless circle, exactly the way I wanted it. Then I placed it inside the aquarium to test the fit. Perfect. It was exactly the way I had imagined. Now it was time to add the floating plants. They would provide shade, shelter, and help keep this tiny ecosystem in balance. 20 days later, this tiny world looked completely different. The ring had transformed into a lush green centerpiece. The water had become crystal clear, and the floating plants had multiplied beyond my expectations. The moment I'd been waiting for had finally arrived. It was time to welcome the first fish into their new home. Everything was new to them. They swam through every corner of the aquarium, exploring the tiny world that would soon become their home. This was exactly the moment I had been waiting for. The fish were thriving, the floating plants had taken over the surface, and every part of this tiny ecosystem was working together in perfect harmony. It was no longer just an aquarium. It had become a living world. 10 days later, the floating plants had taken over the entire surface. but the foam ring had done exactly what it was designed to do. It kept a perfect opening in the middle, a small window into the underwater world where I could watch the fish whenever I wanted. The floating plants were multiplying faster than I ever expected. Almost every mature plant had produced new baby plants, and together they were slowly transforming the entire surface into a lush green canopy. Day 50. By now, the floating plants had completely taken over the surface. What started as just a handful of tiny plants had multiplied into a dense green carpet. Even the smallest baby plants had found their way through the opening, slowly claiming every bit of open water. At this point, it almost felt like nature had taken control. The Vallisneria had finally reached the surface, creating a lush underwater forest. The fish glided effortlessly through the waving leaves, turning every swim into a beautiful little scene. This tiny world finally felt complete. Even though the ecosystem was developing well, it still hadn't produced enough natural food for the fish. So every now and then, I gave them a little helping hand. Within seconds, the entire school would rush in, turning a simple feeding time into one of my favorite moments to watch. Let me show you the aquarium from above. From just a few tiny plants, they've grown into a lush green canopy that now blankets almost the entire surface. Now, close your eyes for about 5 seconds and imagine you're a tiny fish living in this aquarium. Now open your eyes. You're one of them now. The fish are no longer just something to watch. They're your neighbors, swimming only inches away in the world you now call home. Now look up. The surface is no longer above an aquarium. It's the sky above your world, and the fish drift peacefully overhead, as if they've always been there. Now, let's slow down for a moment. From this side view, the aquarium feels like a tiny world frozen in time. The fish quietly sift through the substrate. The plants sway gently with the water, and every creature simply goes about its day. Now, just relax, enjoy the music, and take a moment to lose yourself in this peaceful little world. Since you're new here, some of the fish can't help but swim over to check you out. Maybe they're just curious, or maybe they're simply stopping by to say hello. Day 60. The floating plants had completely taken over. They had spread far beyond the foam ring, invading even the open space in the center. At this point, it felt like nothing could stop them. It was time to bring out my secret weapon, this tiny net. Its mission? To clear every floating plant that had invaded the inside of the ring. One scoop at a time, I carefully cleared the floating plants away. Little by little, the open water returned, revealing the fish swimming peacefully beneath the surface once again. Removing some of the floating plants lets more light reach the aquarium, improves air exchange at the surface, and leaves plenty of open space for the fish to swim and feed. Sometimes, a little maintenance is all it takes to keep a healthy ecosystem in balance. As of today, it's been 80 days since I started this aquarium. And honestly, the floating plants are almost impossible to keep under control. No matter how many times I remove them, they always grow back. Once again, they've covered nearly the entire surface. Looks like it's time to bring out my secret weapon again. Armed with my little net, I carefully cleared away the floating plants that had taken over the center of the ring, reclaiming the open window into this tiny world. As I cleared away the floating plants, the hidden world beneath slowly revealed itself. One by one, the fish emerged from the green cover, as if they had been waiting for the light to return. Nature never really stops growing. Before I even realized it, the Vallisneria had already reached the surface. Its flowing leaves had become a beautiful underwater forest, with the fish weaving through them all day long. But if I wanted this little world to stay healthy, I had to step in. A careful trim would make room for new leaves, improve water circulation, and keep the plants growing strong. After the trim, just look at how much I removed. It's hard to believe all of this came from a single aquarium. What a difference. The aquarium finally felt open again. The excess floating plants were gone. The overgrown Vallisneria had been trimmed back, and every part of this tiny world could be seen once more. It felt as if the entire aquarium could breathe again. Sometimes creating a beautiful world doesn't require a lot of space. Just a little patience, a little care, and letting nature do the rest. If you enjoyed spending time in this tiny world, don't forget to subscribe and join me on the next adventure. Until then, take care, and never stop finding the beauty hidden in the little things.